Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your man EGlaze, and welcome to I think it's the 43rd edition of the EGlaze Chronicles. We have a great show for you today. I want to thank you all for joining us since the beginning. If you're just your first time listening, we've changed platform over the last 5 shows. We went from IG to this new streaming from Facebook and YouTube to, what we're doing now. I just felt like it was a better platform, and we get to show you and keep them and keep the shows for a little while longer. Today's show is with a good friend of mine who's been a staple of the Atlanta news scenes for a few years now, and I can't wait to talk to her today because of all the things that we have going on in today's time. But should be a great conversation. We just have great conversations in these shows today, and we can't wait to do it. So please join me in welcoming my friend, Tracye Hutchins. Hey, Tracye.
Hi, Manuel. How are you? I'm well.
I'm good. I thank you. I know I saw you did all the shows. You've been working, we're rocking and rolling today. So thank you for taking the time out and speaking with me. I appreciate that.
Of course. I was trying to eat really quick before we did this. Let me try and get out of the light because the lighting's not the best right here. Hold on. Yeah, it's all these lights. Okay.
You got big time lights. You got a lot of big time lights.
I know it's the studio, so
the studio lights. I will ask you this question. I'll start with this. How has 2020 been for you personally and professionally?
Honestly, 2020 has been the worst to me. Because I like to travel, so I have not been able to travel.
Right.
There's been some illnesses in the family, so that's not been good. And it's just been crazy busy, and it's just very uncertain. And I think for a lot of us, that makes it very difficult. Right. My daughter's graduating from college this year. And so for her getting out into the workforce, that makes it hard. So 2020 is not the best, I would say.
I think that's a good way of putting it out there. Not the best. I know you've been in the news game for, and seen some things, but professionally though, it's between the pandemic and the uprisings and all of that, it's been interesting. And that to now, what I always used to hear the phrase, what does local media mean to us now with all the news coverage and social media and all that? I think this year show exactly what local media means and how important. How has it been for from CBS 46 and you guys, just the story just keep coming and coming, and y'all having to cover it? How has it been professionally for you and your team?
Yeah, it's been exhausting, and I'm not on the receiving end of it as much as a lot of our reporters are out in the field, and huge kudos to them for doing all they do. I remember the first night of the protests, I was actually working from home that night, and we were covering it. And then all of a sudden, a few minutes into the 4:00 show, we're told, oh, we're going to go wall to wall with this, like no commercial breaks. Wow. I was like, okay, I have to go get into the station. And I couldn't because we were doing wall to wall coverage. So I was at home. Yeah. So I kind of got stuck there. And, that's a weird environment to be in, and seeing all these things happen. And covering that, and of course going into the weekend, it's just been rough. And to be honest, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. It's heartbreaking to see, to see those videos of George Floyd being played over and over and over again, and unfortunately sometimes being used as wallpaper video on what we say. Just it's video to cover up some.
Yeah, hold on.
Trying to sell me something. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So to see that video over and over again, and to see obviously the shooting of Rayshard Brooks over and over again, it's hard to see. And during the protests, watching cars go up in flames in the CNN Center, being spray painted and signs and you don't ever want to see that happen to your city. I love Atlanta. That's why I've been here for so long, and this is my second time staying in Atlanta. So it's heartbreaking, honestly, to see that and then cover it, and of course cover it with emotion and compassion, but at the same time trying to be aware of anything, but not being able to kind of watch it as someone who um like Joe Public, you
Mhm.
can't really watch it that way. You have to kind of watch every aspect of it
Yeah.
and be all consumed by it. And at the end of the day, and honestly, I didn't know this was happening to me until kind of the middle of the pandemic, that I realized, you know what, I'm not sleeping very well. I don't know if you've had trouble sleeping,
Oh
but
yeah.
I've had trouble sleeping, and I'm like,
Yeah.
for a few days, because I was exposed like early on, I think in March. And I was like, well, I'm working from home and I could do all those things, but I can't sleep.
Right.
So I couldn't figure out what that was. And it's just a lot of anxiety.
Right.
And I know I'm not the only one. And I think with the protests and the shootings and the unrest and funerals, that's just added to the anxiety of doing what we do
Yeah.
and seeing that. And it's like, for everyone who watches TV, imagine all that information just coming at you all the time, constantly, and you have to keep talking about it and keep talking about it. So whereas, Joe Public, the viewers can turn it off. It's my job to do it every day, and I can't turn it off. So it could be emotionally and physically exhausting doing it and talking about it um, over and over and over again. But back to your point, local media is very important, because without our crews on the ground, you wouldn't know what was going on. And there were
Right.
many times that I was very concerned about their safety
Right.
out there, and where they were placing themselves, and certainly didn't want anything to happen to them, and didn't want anything to happen to them on live TV.
Right.
So but without them being brave and fearless, and the photographers certainly, because you're when you're out there in the field, you're kind of a team. Like, I'm looking at
Yeah.
you, you're looking at me, I'm
Right.
watching your back, you're watching my back. And that's not as easy to do when you're trying to go live and be in the middle of a protest and a crowd. So that's not easy. And I was telling, and I know Brittany Miller, one of our reporter anchors, I said that's one of the scariest things to me, because I've covered, fires and hurricanes and, standoffs and those things. But what is the most scary to me is when you're in the middle of a protest and a mob. And if that could turn south, you don't know what people are going to do. At
Right.
least,
Right.
with a fire, you can back away from that and get away. But in a situation like that, you don't know how people are feeling. If they feel as though you're the enemy, um, you don't know what kind of emotions they may have. And all it takes is one person
Yep.
to, throw that bottle or throw the rock or whatever else, and you're in the middle of it, and you cannot get out of that fast enough.
It's funny. I appreciate your
Why did
candidness
I
because
lose you? Now I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Hold on.
Can you hear me all right now?
Oh, I still can't hear you.
Still there? Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear
Hold
me?
on.
You
It
can
might
hear
be
me. I can't hear you, Emmanuel. And I heard you a minute ago.
Let's see. Can you hear? Okay.
Keep talking to me.
See if we can bring you back on, Tracye.
I didn't know what happened. I think it happened when
Want to come back?
I think it happened when someone called me.
Like here. Nothing. Want to come back? Let's try it again. You can't. Oh, that's right. How about now? Can you hear me? How about now? Anything? see, we come back. We're gonna try to bring her back in. The stream's a little funny. Let's see. Hey, Tracye, that sounds better. Can you hear me, Tracye? Tracye, can you hear anything? Nothing. Anything?
Maybe let me try to log back in. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and log back in.
Okay. All right, she's going to come back. We're just getting started with Tracye. Sorry about that technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Stay with us. We're going to bring her back on when she comes back on and get it going. Right now, we're just talking with Tracye Hutchins of CBS 46. She's giving us some candid information about 2020 in general, from the pandemic. We're going to talk about that. We're going to also talk about the protests, the deaths that we're seeing, and things of that nature. It is a time that's been trying for all of us. And I think the thing that I want to really get into and talk with her about is, and I think she kind of brought it up at the beginning, was the better. Okay.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
And you
I don't
brought
know
up
what
something, and
happened.
I just want to say, oh, that's fine. You were very candid, because I always used to ask when I had, news personalities on, do you get personal? Does it get personal? And they be, oh no, we try to keep it from it. But 2020 is different. It just feels, from the pandemic, seeing y'all reporting from home, to, like you said, seeing these protests and being involved during these times. And you saying you can't sleep. I mean, is this when you count on your other colleagues to talk about these things? Because there's nobody doing this but what you guys are doing. So how do you try to get from day to day and not let the news bog you down? I know you say you're not sleeping, but how do you try to get through them from day to day?
I decompress and turn everything off on the weekends. Some of the people who follow me on Facebook know, they're like, you never respond. I'm like, you know what? I'm just barely getting there to where I can post. Me responding to things, is not the best. If I had my druthers, honestly, I probably wouldn't be on social media at all. But I just decompress and I completely unplug, other than what I may be binging on, on Hulu or Netflix or HBO or whatever it is. But, spend some time with my friends. Can't really eat out. We would eat out before. I go on hikes and things. And honestly, I pray. I was raised in the Church of God in Christ. My mother had me in church every Sunday from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. Every day. And then when I got older and I didn't have to go to church and I didn't live at home, I rebelled and never went to church. And then, you go through a few hard times and you go back to church. You're thankful for that foundation that your parents built for you. So honestly, I pray about it. I have to pray because I'm a Capricorn and I'm a control freak. And I have to feel like I have control of those things around me. And then when I don't, that's when I resort to projects around the house that I do have control over.
Mm-hmm.
So when I don't have control, I just have to meditate and pray. And honestly, every day before I come into work, whether it's before I set foot in my garage, or if it's before I set foot in this building, I talk to God about it. I'm like, carry me through today, help me get through just today, because it can be very overwhelming to think about what's in the week ahead. So I pray a lot and I ask him to carry it for me, because that's what I believe he has charged us with, is to, when we need him, call him and let him know. Because I've lost my mother, I've lost my sister, I went through a painful divorce. I mean, there are so many things that I went through that there's no way I could have survived that. I feel, this is my belief, that I could have survived that by myself, without having faith and without having a foundation and without the power of prayer, honestly, for me. So how do I get through it? Pray a lot every day.
And that having that foundation is important. And you brought it up a little earlier, your daughter graduating and now she's entering into that adult world. What do you talk to her about these times? I know I'm having some conversations with my daughters and I'm like, you know, this is a little different. But what are those some of those conversations you having with her? Because that generation is kind of the one that are kind of carrying us through the protests and kind of working now, and our generation is the one that kind of trying to make sure they're okay. What are some of the things you're talking with her about?
Whenever she wants to talk, I ask her to let me know. Honestly, I feel like we've not had a lot of those one-on-one conversations. We have lately, anyway. We would have them before in the past, where she would ask me about things at work, or about something that's going on. I right now, because she is in school and she has a really strong, um, tight-knit group of people who she depends on, from both races. And, I think for the most part, she's navigating it pretty well. We have not had to have those conversations about we had those early on about what to do and what not to do, say if you're stopped by police or if you're in certain situations. So we've had those early on. Have I reinforced that lately? I have not, but I probably need to. As I know, I've talked with friends about, you know, as hard as it may be for us to humble ourselves, that, and even though it may not be right, but my goal is to survive whatever situation this is. And, it's scary to think about, but if that means my face on the pavement, and I live another day to tell about it and fight it, then unfortunately that's what it has to be. I mean, is that going to be gut wrenching and hard to do? Absolutely. But, we've covered too many stories and seen how this ends. And that is, I think, a little bit scary to me when I look at my daughter's generation of having, they're kind of the McDonald's mentality, right? Like everything happens instantly. If it doesn't
Right,
happen
right,
now, tomorrow,
right,
it's not worth it. And it
right,
needs to happen now. Well, things don't happen
right,
instantly. And,
right.
when you speak to civil rights leaders from, I remember walking on the Edmund Pettus Bridge with John Lewis on the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. And that man was nearly beaten to death
Right.
and still came back and did it and marched and still fought day after day after day. And how long before they saw results? And that was not something that happened. When you look at everything that's happening today, how quickly companies are changing, and for our station, we got Juneteenth as a holiday last week.
Yeah. Right.
What? How
Right.
did that happen so quickly? So for them, things are moving pretty fast. I mean, to me, how I view it, but yet I have that conversation, and there are times that I fear that they want instant results and have an expectation of sometimes that it couldn't happen to them. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Mhm.
That they don't really picture someone mistreating them
Right.
necessarily. I mean, I know they see it, but I worry that and I haven't experienced, I've been blessed I haven't experienced that, but I worry about what kind of interaction that will be if they ever have to experience that friction and ever have to be demoralized and demeaned, and I worry about that. So that is a conversation that I need to have with her again. There's so many things going on, and I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry, Mommy hasn't had time to talk to you this week, but
Right.
so we'll do quick text because I've been busy and she's been busy, and so it's one of those things when your child gets older, there are fewer those conversations that happen, but I need to make sure that I do that relatively soon.
I've never seen also during this time. You mentioned also about social media, and I've seen you guys just post what y'all know and post what y'all are seeing, but we have the era of fake news where everybody seems to challenge or feel like you're only reporting one way. And I've seen what you guys are posting. I think y'all just post what y'all see and what y'all get information on, but you also get as many fans as you have. You also have your detractors, as they say.
Mhm.
How have you handled that? Because now it seems like you guys also, as far as trying to be the media and putting the news out there, you're also getting attacked if you're not putting it a certain way, or they feel like you're putting it one way and not the, telling the full story, as they say.
Right.
How have you been able to handle that?
I haven't had anyone say it to my face, fortunately. Although, have we been out in stories? Yeah, someone's like yelled something ridiculous, like fake news, whatever, ignore it. And on my page, honestly, I'll let them say what they say as long as it's not vulgar or against anyone else. And I just honestly ignore it. And of course, block them if it turns way south.
Right.
But in terms of, I haven't had to field any calls. I haven't had any emails regarding that. So I can only speak to what's been posted on my page. And those are honestly few and far between.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, that's very good. But do you feel like you have a responsibility, though, with so many outlets and so many different things, as far as when you put news out there, to make sure you try to keep them informed? What is your idea of what you have to to post? Do you feel like you have to post on social media to get stuff out there?
I feel like I have to post because it's part of my job. So yes.
Okay.
But I am selective in what I post. I don't post anything that's inflammatory. I don't post anything that makes me that's gratuitous for the sake of being gratuitous.
Right.
Certainly things that are top of mind and are big issues, like with Ahmaud Arbery and with Rayshard Brooks, there's a lot of information surrounding that I post. But like we had access, unfortunately, to Ahmaud Arbery's video. The video, I'm not going to post that. I don't want to see that. I've seen it. I've watched it. I can't watch it again. Right. So it's things like that bother me. And I don't know if maybe I'm the only person that feels this way, but when I see something, I can't unsee it. And that haunts me for a long time. So there are some things that, I just refuse to watch. I don't want to watch that. I know the world is a violent place. I know people hurt each other. I know that. I don't need to see it and have that replay in my mind over and over again. So I'm selective about the things that I post, that it's not inflammatory or viewed as something one way or another. I try to post, good stories, things that make me laugh or that make me smile in the midst of all of this. And certainly the stories that we're covering. I try to make sure that I post a lot of what CBS 46 has covered and posted on our website as well.
How do you think, how do you think you guys did work from home? How did you do working from home, in your opinion, during the pandemic? I thought it was interesting to see so many living rooms this spring and to see windows and how your background was. How was that for you? How was it, opening up your home to Atlanta? How was that for you?
It wasn't that hard, honestly, because I have a room that's like kind of an office that didn't have anything in it. My good friend was supposed to be using it as a photo studio. And I, and she didn't ever use it. I'm like, well, that's not helpful. So when I was told I had to stay home, and I was already planning because we knew that we were going to be working from home even before I was exposed. So once I was exposed, I kind of staged that room so that I can close it off and it wouldn't be in the middle of my living room.
Right.
So for me, it was actually not that hard in terms of setting wise. It's kind of, you're sitting in the same place. You got to make sure. The hard part is just knowing that if something goes wrong, you're the one responsible. That there were a couple times things froze up and I had to power down. There was one day that I couldn't get on at all because the internet in my neighborhood was down. So, well, then that's not going to work. So I couldn't do the show that day. Right. And, another day, a photographer friend was like, oh, you were really hot. And, the lighting on me was like too hot. And so had to bring that down. Or if my audio messes up, then I got to, I'm the troubleshooter now, as opposed to someone else. So I have to figure all those things out. So setting wise, it wasn't that hard. What was hard was the workflow. Even though it was nice because, you were at home, the workflow is hard because you're on, but you're not on. And, the time between shows, it's like, okay, well, I can't really get comfortable So, because I have to be on in another 30, 40 minutes. So the workflow thing was hard. Now, could I do it long term? Maybe I'd get the workflow thing down pat. But it's not bad. It's a good option. The studio is still set up at my house in case something happens. I can certainly go back and flip a switch, actually dial in and broadcast from home. So it wasn't that hard.
We talked about the pandemic and it's restricting us to be able to travel. And I know you're a big time traveler, but I'm still looking. And what are we missing? Because I feel like when I ride out, people are like, we're back to normal. And I'm like, I feel like we're missing something. I'm a little nervous right now. And I'm a little bit of the age. I had to keep my mask on. I still don't go out much. I probably walk in the yard more than I do anything. What are I feel like we're missing something because it seems with all the things that's going on with the protests and all that. And now I look out, beaches are getting crowded. Theme parks are reopening. I go to the grocery store, people don't have, it's just like everybody's back. I'm like, we're missing something because I keep hearing numbers going up. What are some of the things maybe I'm not hearing it, but I watch the news every day and I don't hear it going down. I hear ticking up. What are we missing around here with this whole pandemic?
Exactly. I think today we had 1,700 new cases from yesterday and 20 more deaths from yesterday. Nothing has changed. I mean, it's just as bad as it was. So I guess to me, am I concerned about it? Absolutely. My fear is not as much in the beginning because I have a feeling, granted, I'm not a doctor, but I do have a feeling that obviously the numbers are going up because of more testing. Mm-hmm. And I do think more people are asymptomatic than not. But we still have to be worried about the other people too. Older people with compromised immune systems. I mean, I know a few people who fall in that category too. My dad lives in Texas and he's 80 years old. I can't go see him. He doesn't want me in his house, which rightfully so. I wouldn't want me in his house either, because who knows? I could be a carrier and now I've exposed him. So he stays home. They don't go anywhere, but they didn't go anywhere before. So, what's the difference? But for me, I'm like you, I wear my mask all the time when I'm in the grocery store, when I go to Home Depot. I go to two places, Home Depot and the grocery store, and I'm always wearing my mask. Here at work, we're not wearing our masks because, that will mess up your makeup. And honestly, there is a requirement, but it's not strictly enforced. But the good thing is, when we're on the set, we're quite a distance away from each other. In the newsroom, there's no one sitting next to me. No one near me really. So we've been able to social distance quite a bit. I wash my hands constantly. Every time I think about it, I wash my hands. So, you're not missing anything. I think people have gotten antsy and, are ready to get out of the house. I can't blame them. I wouldn't be in a club right now. I wouldn't necessarily be I don't even think I'd be in a restaurant. Yeah, I've been eating a lot of, takeout lately. But I did go to the beach this past weekend. Granted, I was very far away from everyone else, still wore my masks when I was in, someplace like ordering ice cream or whatever. But on the beach, distance from everyone else when, walking on the sidewalk, make sure to give them their distance. I can understand people are tired of being cooped up and they feel like they have to have something else to do. But, the worst is not over. I mean, I have concerns about what our state is going to look like, what other states are going to look like, and, how we operate from here on out. And I know you've seen those movies because I was watching. Do you watch Westworld?
Sometimes.
You watch Westworld?
I need to binge it, but I've started.
Yeah, you need to binge it. So I didn't finish watching the very last episode of it till maybe about a month or two ago. And it was interesting. Like there were scenes in there where people were wearing masks, right? Now this was shot last year.
Right.
But it's one of those things where you see all these movies about the future and you always see intermittently someone wearing masks, so which does make you think and know for sure probably that there will be viruses like this around all the time. And so it's just a matter of living with it and hopefully having a vaccine rather for the virus. But should here's my takeaway. I tell my and I have like 4 or 5 masks. I always have a mask with me in the car, in the purse, whatever. Just like wash your hands, please. Just wash your hands. Keep your distance and wear your mask. I don't know how else to operate, and do what you feel is safe.
Got a few more. I know you got to go and get ready, and I appreciate you taking the time. But this, what shocked you more? What has been shocking to you more? Seeing Atlanta, I know you said it's your second stint in Atlanta, seeing what happened that those nights and seeing what went on with Atlanta, or this, what we've seen with Ahmaud Arbery, with all this going on, what has been that thing that you just been like, wow, I can't believe, because it seemed like it just happened back to back when it came to these police shootings, what you said, and all of this, and it's just been like so just amazed to see our city like it was. What had there been a wow, can't believe this moment for you? You've seen a lot, but this period of time, has it been shocking for you?
I think the protests were shocking. Certainly, the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery was just heartbreaking, to think that someone could be out jogging and mistaken for somebody else, and someone come and hunt you down. And he was hit by a car. He shot, I think, twice or 3 times. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It just, I can't even imagine the pain that his family is. Beyond that, I think what surprised me is that it happened so quickly. I think with Arbery, we had time to absorb that, especially from the time that we heard about it happening and the time the video came out, that we had time to, absorb it a bit. With the protests, I think I was most shocked by that, at how quickly things turned violent.
All right.
And saddened that the message of Black Lives Matter and excessive use of police force and disparities and racial inequality and profiling, all of those messages being lost in violence. Because I remember during the protests talking about, I'm hoping this is not the headline. And of course, what was the headline? That, all those, all along Marietta Boulevard, those businesses were looted and damaged and burned down. And we've been talking about this Wendy's burned down for how many days?
Yeah, right.
So and you just hate for those things to overshadow what the message is. And that element to come in there and do that part is upsetting and disheartening, because we covered a ton of protests in weeks. And we covered one that just happened in Midtown. I remember that Sunday that I was working, and we watched, and they were on the 17th Street Bridge. Mm-hmm. And, we went out there live, had one of our reporters out there, Haley Mason, and we could see it from the chopper, and people just sat in the middle of the roadway.
Yeah.
And I said, I could just imagine it being silent out there, quiet. And she was out there. And when we came to her live, that's what it was. People were just sitting there in silence, in kind of their own meditation, in their own space, just taking in what being part of that protest meant. So it can be peaceful, and you can get your message across in a peaceful way without looting and taking advantage of the situation. So that part, is sad to see. And because the last protest that I had to cover out on the street was Eric Garner, when that happened quite a few years ago. And I remember it being wintertime, and I was carrying like a bag full of batteries for my photographer, and I was exhausted trying to walk and talk at the same time. But I remember protesters like laying down in the middle of the street. That was back when, everybody was getting onto the highway and things. And I was proud of Atlanta, because we didn't, I think there was only like 1 or 2 places that windows were broken, despite all the people that were out in the street throughout the night. No one, the damage was minor by comparison. So I was hoping this was going to be similar to that, because I'm like, oh, it's Atlanta. People here don't protest like they do in other places, like what we've seen in Minneapolis. That's not going to happen here. That was my thought, until it got dark and
Yeah.
things changed.
All right, last two questions. What will the media's job be? I don't say on the other side because we're going to go through it. What would the importance of the media be to get through the pandemic, to get through this current state of unrest in our country? What would be the job of the media going forward, you feel?
I think to do some of what we're still doing, which is to get the information out there and to show you what's happening. Um, I think, there are a lot of choices for news, and people have their preferences, um, of the people they like and dislike, and who they want to deliver the news to them. So I think as long as we're on the ground and showing people what's happening, um, I think that's the best way to kind of cut through the clutter of the day with the pandemic. You know, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. I mean, unfortunately, we have to show the numbers that are
Right.
coming out every day, that are spiking. But it's just a space where for us TV news, we can't get the information out there as fast as social media can,
Right.
nor the images. I mean, you've seen all the people who were out there. There were more people taking videos and shooting a documentary than were actually protesting on many nights.
Mhm.
And certainly at the Wendy's too. We talked to a documentary filmmaker today. One of our reporters did. So it's all about people showing you what's going on. So it's not just for us for news. There's so many other ways to get that information before we can even get it on and talk about it.
And it's crazy. July 1st is the second half, and we still got elections. We still got all that's still covered up in 2020. And Trace, I will leave with this. This will be my last question. When you sign off, when you was on reporting, when you sign off on the news at night, what do you hope people get from you when you sign off? What do you hope that when they hear Tracye Hutchins' story, or she's reporting, or she's done the newscast, what do you hope they get from you when you're finished, when you sign off?
Then I'm being honest, and what you see is what you get, that this is truly who I am, and there's no hidden agenda, and that I do love this city, and I've been here for a while, and I know the city. Do I know every single player in it? No. But I've traveled around it enough, driven inside and outside the perimeter enough that I know where most places are. But that I truly care about the city, and that the things that happen in this community matter to me. That's what I hope they take away with, um, when they watch, because that's how I feel. Can I? And it's interesting because sometimes when we're reading a story and it's one that just totally makes you shake your head
Mhm.
and completely, makes you think, what is wrong with people? You have to sometimes hold back from saying that, because I don't want to editorialize it, and I want because that visceral reaction is going to be there whether I say something or not. In when we do Facebook lives, or when we're talking about something in a different setting, can I elaborate on that more? Yes. But I always tend to stop myself, because I don't want my opinion to be your opinion. Because if you see something like the video of, Ahmaud Arbery shooting, you're going to come away from that feeling a certain way anyway, no matter what I say about it. If you have some compassion and understand the context of that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be, Emmanuel, as honest as I can be from day to day, without expressing all my opinions. So.
I lied. One more. I know you can control what comes out your mouth, but how do you try to control the facial expressions? Because you do a good job. You keep it focused, because I know, like, if you read a story, you'd be like, "God dang," how do you not show that frustration? Because you do a very professional job of, like, okay, I'm gonna tell you the story, but I don't want you to read my face and be like, man, she really didn't like that story, or something like that.
Well, you're different from my friends because my friends say, I can tell on your face you weren't thinking that. You try and have as much of a poker face as possible because because the next story may have nothing to do with that,
Right.
and so you don't want one thing to bleed over in the other. And the way we do our shows, it's automated, so it's like a train on the tracks. The train's not going to wait for you. The train just takes off. So if you're still having a conversation or a thought or a little side comment about this story, we're halfway into the next story, with the video and animations and whatever else. So you kind of don't have time for that. That's not, we have had shows where that's built into more, where, there's more breathing room and they want you to comment on things, but now we want it to be very fast paced to get to the next story, so that we get as many stories in as possible in the time frame that we have.
Well, thank you, Tracye. I appreciate you taking the time. Tell them where they can see you and can find you. I know you say you're not the biggest social media fan, but for them to follow you and to watch you, what can they do that at?
Right. Well, all my social media is Tracye. Yes, my mom spelled my name differently. Hutchins, Hutchins. And it's like at Tracye Hutchins on Instagram, and Tracye Hutchins on Facebook, and Tracye Hutchins on Twitter. And, here at CBS 46, all this week, I'm working all the evening shows. So 4, 5, 6, 9, and 11. I'm here. And, depending day to day, I'm on every day at 5 p.m. That's my main show. So here I am. You'll find me here at CBS 46 in the evenings.
Well, thank you. Tracye Hutchins, everybody. Tracye. It took me almost a year to be able to figure that out, but I think I got it now.
Sometimes the people that I work with don't even know that it's YE, so you would be the first.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see y'all later. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.